Hey, this is Matt Heafy from Trivium, and you're watching Richard Metal Fan.
Hey everyone, it's Richard Metal Fan here, bringing you guys a brand new 2020 album review. And today we're going to be looking into the new album from Trivium entitled What the Dead Men Say, which came out today through Roadrunner Records. Now, Trivium definitely doesn't really need an introduction if you're a fan of like metalcore, or just that whole like 2000, that whole mid 2000s like new wave of American heavy metal scene. They're a metal band based out of Orlando, Florida, and these guys have been around since 2000. And Trivium for me are one of my all-time favorite bands. I've been listening to them ever since high school, and they're pretty much the band I've pretty much seen the most live. I've seen them live 7 times. That'll probably be 8 and possibly 9 because I plan on seeing them twice, once in Alpharetta and in October in Alabama if this COVID-19 shit fucks off. But anyway, and moving on, besides the point, this is the band's 9th album, and I've been a fan of these guys. I mean, going to like their very first album, Ember to Inferno, which came out in 2003, which in my opinion, it's a really good album, and in my opinion, the most underrated Trivium album. Like literally, almost everybody seems to forget about this album unless if you're a hardcore Trivium fan, and it's a great album. And it's hard to believe that on that album, Matt Heafy was only like 17 years old, which is crazy. And then 2005 rolls along and we have Ascendancy, the band's second album, which in my opinion is probably my favorite Trivium album. And that's pretty much the album that broke them big, which really got them really just well known and sort of like out there at that time. Then a year later, in 2006, we get to The Crusade, which is kind of different compared to like Ember to Inferno and Insanity. It's more of a thrash album that's like them trying to almost sound like Metallica, but not to say that that's bad. But I know some fans, they love it. Some people they hate it, but I think it's a pretty good album. Not my favorite, but it's a pretty good album. And then we go into 2008 with wow, the masterpiece known as Shogun, and that album is, in my opinion, is just a really great album. It's just a phenomenal album, probably my second favorite Trivium album. It's just that up there. It's just, I don't know, a lot of fans would consider it the best Trivium album, and I have to kind of agree, but I still think Ascendancy is probably my favorite. And I think after they recorded their next album, In Waves, which came out in 2011, in 2010 they did like a song for the Gods of War soundtrack called Shattering the Skies Above, which is pretty good. But then 2011 we get to the In Waves, which is a pretty good album. I remember being hyped about it at the time. They also had like a different drummer change. Like I feel like every album they've had like different drummers, and then they had after Travis Smith left, they got Nick Augusto. And I thought he was a pretty solid, great drummer, just insane at what he does. And then in 2013, they put out Vengeance Falls, which they had produced by fucking David Draymond from Disturbed, which I don't know. In my opinion, I feel like that's one of Trivium's weakest albums. I mean, not to say that it's a bad album, but it just seems like a lot of people seem to forget that album, except for like a couple songs like maybe Strife and stuff. And then 2015, we get to Silence in the Snow, the band's 7th album, which is a kind of like I feel like Trivium's kind of like played a little bit safe with that album. It's like it was around that time Matt Heafy blown out his voice and he couldn't scream, and that album has no harsh vocals at all. It's just clean singing all throughout. Pretty much I feel like that was Matt sort of rebuilding his voice. And then their last album, which came out in 2017, The Sin and the Sentence, I thought that was a really great album. I thought that was probably their best since Shogun. But here we are in 2020 with the band's 9th album, What the Dead Men Say. Does this live up to what The Sin and the Sentence has? In my honest opinion, I feel like it definitely has. I feel like the band pretty much stepped it up. Just vocally, Matt Heafy, I feel like he's in the last few years, he's just improved a lot. I mean, he's started doing good ever since probably after Shogun and stuff when he started doing that screaming again. And it's even after when he blew out his voice, he pretty much worked it back up, and he's just a phenomenal vocalist. And his guitar riffing, along with Corey Bolio's lead playing, is just I don't even know how. I just love the guitar. Their guitar playing is just solid, as tight as ever. The bass is pretty audible, like especially on the last couple albums. Paulo Gregoletto really stepped it up on the bass. And drumming wise, Alex Bent, I feel like he's probably the best drummer that Trivium has had, probably since Travis Smith. Like, I don't even know, like, he just tight, and I just really hope they keep him, because this is like the 5th drummer they had now. But yeah, I've rambled on for like 5 minutes. Let's just dive into this album track by track. Now, starting things off is the little instrumental called 9, which is like Roman numerals IX, which is a little short little piece of interlude. So like this is actually the first time Trivium had like a little intro, kind of like reminds me of like capsizing the sea from In Waves going into that title track of that album. It's kind of similar for this case. It's a really just builds it up, and then we go into the title track, What the Dead Men Say. And one thing you can say about this song, and largely about this album, is that Trivium has found a fine balance with their style. On the last album, this in the sentence, they finally learned that can make use of all the different styles, both across an album and individual songs, as opposed to talking about one or the other approach. And this is very much continues on What the Dead Men Say. The title track just rips through several excellent riffs, both from Matt's like main vocal styles, showcase to like very maximal effect, and then the rhythm section of Paulo and Alex are just on point throughout. Great song. And one thing I love about Trivium is like with each album, like they have like a different style. You could definitely like not try and deviate from their sound, which I pretty much love about them. And then moving on to the next song being Catastrophist, which is the first single from this album. And this is perhaps an even better example of the 2020 incarnation of Trivium, as it essentially just distills like every previous Trivium album into 6.5 minutes. And the first half of the song is enjoyable, but it really ramps up like halfway through and just the Never Had a Chance. It just ramps up at least like 3 gears, and Trivium is just cutting loose in a way they haven't always been comfortably doing this probably since Shogun. Next song on here is Amongst the Shadow and Stones. And this is probably the heaviest Trivium song to emerge from the Shadow in the Skies Above. And Alex Ben's drumming is just very considerable and just pretty much on full display here. And the verses are short and sharp, and the mood is very dark, and the gallop into the mid-song solo was just an excellent change of pace. And this is a song that will incite pure chaos in a live setting, particularly in like the last minute of the song. Bleed Into Me. Now this is pretty much the album's most radio-friendly track, and also the only misstep on the album, going a bit like too far to like syrupy rock ballad territory. That's just me. And then moving on to The Defiant, which pretty much gets things back on track quickly. An upbeat song to match the title with riffs that just feel like they've come from ascendancy, with a lot of positive energy throughout. One of the Spotify's workout playlists. Next song on the album is called Sickness Unto You, which pretty much has like strong Ascendancy era vibes coursing throughout, but it still sort of like feels like it's invigorating Trivium for this year, 2020. And this has created almost a perfect mirage of like their early era work with like the current path. Would feel like an appropriate album to give anyone to demonstrate what Trivium is all about. Scattering the Ashes, I pretty much love the vocals here. It brings incredible power to the track and certainly an emotional response from the listener. Bending the Arc to Fear, which fills the now almost obligatory requirement of any Trivium album to have kept one of the best songs on the album until like near the end. And Matt's sort of like harsher vocals are more in evidence here and used to amplify the foreboding nature of the track, with moody riff work and sweeping big tempo changes in the drumming, creating a bleak feeling around the song, but in the best possible way. And then the album closes with The Ones We Leave Behind, which may hit harder at the moment than, I can't even speak today. This may hit harder at the moment than it would have anyway, in the lyrical themes of introspection and self-analysis being very poignant for many at a time when people have more time with their thoughts than they would have otherwise. And the track was just a very powerful message. It's a great way to end this album. And overall, What the Dead Men Say by Trivium is a really good album. But so if I give this album a score, I'm probably going to give this probably a solid 8.5 out of 10. It's a pretty good album. So if that's my review of the new Trivium album, guys, let me know in the comments what you guys think about it, and I'll see you all in the next video. And as always, keep it metal.